seminars, which are designed to help spiritual seekers transition from the seven major world religions into the teachings of the Ascended Masters. We've been around for 5 years, only Zoom seminars this year, however. The previous years were recordings on health and relationships, prosperity, and healing your psychology. So this year, our theme is strategies for victory. And our topic today is how to generate peace in a world of chaos. So we're looking at in these turbulent times how sometimes how we wrestle with our tranquility and how do we find and get ourselves into a more centered, harmonious place and stay there as the world around us is seemingly going crazy. And in order to help us do that, we have Stewart Anderson as our presenter. He has been a student of the Ascended Masters for more than 30 years and a psychotherapist also on staff at the Summit Lighthouse. We are very excited to have him with us today. His approach to psychology is based on the teachings as well as psychology. So psychology is the study of the soul, and Stewart said today that he wants us to go within. And so I'm going to honor his desire for us not to be distractions to each other. And I'm going to stop my video and I ask you if you'd like to do the same. Stuart, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Are we ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So our subject today is how to deal with the anxieties and the agitations of the world and sustain peace of mind in this world. It seems like a rather simple question, and I can tell you that there is simplicity in the answer, but simple and easy are not always the same thing. First, let us understand what we are dealing with. We are accustomed to a complex technological world. In an instant on our computers, we can switch our attention around to any place in the world that we can find on the internet. This is a great boon for many aspects of life, but it does present its challenges too, doesn't it? What we are dealing with here is a law. This law states where we put our attention, that is where our energy goes. And where our energy goes, that is what we go. That's where we go, and that is where we become. The secular word attention is another word for worship, as we'll see here in a little while. So as we put our attention upon the media, most especially what's called the news, to some measure, we become one with it, which means we enter into the vibration of what we are reading and what we are watching. Our aura, through our attention, enters into a sympathetic vibration with what we are watching. And these things are multiplied by our own momentums and our karma. We're entering into what Nada calls the disintegration spiral. What we see on the news, what we see on the media is part of the disintegration spiral. This is a spiral of energy that the fallen ones are in as they go through their judgment. Their vibrations, as their darkness is consumed, they go lower and lower and lower in vibration. And so whatever it is that they write or whatever it is that they say comes with that vibration. It comes through that vibration. Now, at some level or another, the writers of news articles, for example, they know this. And most of them use fear excitement, or some other human energy
Yeah, really.
that comes along.
Stuart, please unmute yourself. I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry.
Got it.
Thank you.
So at some level or another, the writer of news articles and whatever is on the broadcast on the internet, they know that they are also communicating a vibration. And most of them use fear, excitement, or some other human energy, human emotions to entice us to read on. These energies engage our imagination, also our memories from past lives that remain lurking in our subconscious minds and our unconscious minds. Death and hell enters into the game also to create thoughts and feelings and images in our mind that turn these so-called news items into stories that create monsters in our minds. And of course, they never mention that God is bigger than all of these monsters. In fact, these monsters can begin to look like unsolvable problems that will result in the death of the entire world itself. Now, perhaps not everyone is conscious of the details of these subterranean images. We have many mechanisms to shut these things off from our outer awareness, but they are there nonetheless. Now, when fear gets out of hand, our mind employs various mechanisms, they're called defense mechanisms, to protect us from energies we are not otherwise prepared to deal with. These mechanisms include such things as denial, which says, oh, somebody just made that up, or I don't know anything about that, so I'm not going to think about that. Rationalization, which is essentially excuse making. Projection, which blames other people for our own thoughts and feelings. Dissociation, where we kind of split off from what's happening around us. And repression. Repression is a kind of a forced forgetting. And our mind does these things kind of automatically. We use some of these mechanisms more than others, and what we see particularly on the news is that the bad guys are accusing the good guys of what the bad guys are doing, and that's an example of projection. Now, these are human mechanisms, and with most human mechanisms, they offer only a temporary relief, and even that is probably not complete. Death and hell keeps bringing them back, these images and thoughts, back to our minds. Now, the battle here is for our energy, our light. Death and hell continues to exist because people give it their energy, their attention. And for some people, that is worship. We can consider, for example, any addiction that we may have had in the past, or maybe we still wrestle with it. But if you think about it, if you remember it, or if you pay attention to it, you notice that every time you turn around, the thoughts about that addiction are coming to your mind. Now, we usually think that these thoughts are our own, but they can very easily come from death and hell until we make them our own. If we agree with them, they are ours. Until that, they just are coming from death and hell or someplace else. Whatever may have been our addiction, this comes from death and hell. And then death and hell is also the one that accuses us for being a crummy, lousy, despicable person because we have this bad habit or this addiction. The purpose of all of this is to seize our attention. For where we put our attention that is where our energy goes. Now, many people will say, well, I have this addiction because it relaxes me or it makes me feel good. I enjoy it. But if they will look further into it, they will notice that after they are done indulging in their addiction, they feel depleted of energy. The energy level has gone down. The relaxation or the good feeling is simply because the entities of the addiction are temporarily satisfied. So there is a temporary release from the demand of the entities for our energies that they steal in the exercise of our addiction. The feeling of being depleted is because our God given energy has been stolen away from us by the entities. All of this stuff exists in what we know of as the psychic realms. These are realms of thought and feeling that are purely of a human consciousness vibration. We live with these energies bombarding us all the time. So as we indulge in these thoughts and feelings, we go lower and lower in vibration. We can get depressed, discouraged, fearful, or whatever is our vulnerability and our momentum, and what it is that's this psychic thing that is pulling at us. We may well have inner children, which we know of as parts of our soul, that are stuck in various doorless rooms in our consciousness. These doorless rooms are where they are kind of imprisoned in various vibrations. It was Luara that called these things originally doorless rooms, because she gave us Neptune's key, which can unlock doorless rooms. But that's another story. So we can have many and varied imprisoning compartments. They are like little compartments of consciousness in our subconscious mind or unconscious mind, which make up our electronic belt. Many of these compartments were created by traumas in past lives. So we may or may not have conscious awareness of them. In Godfrey's book, The Magic Presence, Saint Germain gives the following teaching to Mr. Rayborn about these dimensions. And Saint Germain says, and I quote, "Of all the faults humanity has generated, self-pity is the most inexcusable because it is the apex of human selfishness. Through self-pity, the attention of the personal consciousness or outer self is entirely absorbed by the petty, puny, human, useless desires of the physical body. And the great, glorious, adorable, all-wise, all-powerful light of the beloved mighty I presence, always abiding above the physical body, is entirely ignored. Yet its energy is being used for this destructive purpose. Humanity cannot have anything better than it is experiencing today until it looks away from the little self long enough to acknowledge and feel the presence of God, the mighty I am presence, the source of every individual's life and all perfect manifestations. Grief is colossal selfishness, not love. Discord is selfishness, not love. Lethargy is selfishness, not love, and not life. These sink the race into slavery because they break down the resistance of the individual by wasting the energy of life that should be used for the creation of beauty, love, and perfection. This slavery continues because the outer activity of the personal consciousness does not make the necessary determined effort to free itself from the domination of the psychic world. The psychic stratum contains only those creations of humanity generated by the discordant thoughts, feelings, and words of the outer activity or personal consciousness. The entire race has become so bound by its own discord that great, glorious, transcendent, ascended masters, out of sheer compassion for the slowness of mankind's growth and the misery of its degradation, offer to cut away the barnacles of the psychic plane and give humanity a new start. People are entertained, fascinated, and self-hypnotized by the various conditions of the psychic world. But I tell you, and I know both the inner and outer activities of life from the Ascended Master standpoint, that there is nothing good nor permanent within the psychic stratum. It is as dangerous as quicksand and just as undependable. The psychic plane and the outer activity of the mental and emotional world, unless they report perfection to you, are one and the same. It is entirely the creation of the human sense consciousness and is but the accumulation of human thoughts and forms energized by human feelings. It contains nothing whatsoever of Christ, which is the cosmic light. The desire for and fascination of psychic phenomena is a feeling. It's a very subtle feeling by which it holds the attention of the personality away from the acknowledgement, the constant adoration, and continual communion, and the permanent acceptance of the individual's mighty I Am presence. Attention to the activities of the psychic plane depletes the personal self of the energy and ability required to reach to the God source and anchor there permanently. I tell you eternal truth when I say that nothing of the Christ comes from the psychic realm, regardless of any seeming evidence to the contrary. Because the psychic or outer activity of the mentality is forever changing its qualities, while the Christ, which is the eternal light, is ever expanding perfection, the one changelessly supreme, imperishable quality. It is because of the attention to and the subtle fascination of the psychic plane that mankind today is today as a mass of children needing much help and the wisdom of the Ascended Masters to raise it once more into the understanding of the light, which is the only means of release from the darkness of Earth's present chaos. World saviors have come at regular intervals to give this kind of help throughout the centuries, ever since the end of the second golden age upon this earth. Following that activity, humanity became fascinated by the world of form and the creation of things. The individual's attention was held most of the time in the outer activities, and the conscious recognition of his own individualized God self was forgotten. Hence, the mighty I Am presence abiding in his electronic body was completely ignored. Thus, he has only been able to express part of his life plan. And that's the end of the quotation. One of our points here today is about energy. And in this quote, Saint Germain says that the psychic plane and our attention to it depletes the personal self of the energy and the ability required to reach the God source and anchor there permanently. That is the purpose, that is the intention of the fallen ones. They do not want us to use our energy to reach our I Am presence and anchor there permanently. So they are forever striving to steal our attention and our energy through that lever of our attention. So let's summarize this a little bit. First of all, as we all know, the psychic dimensions have magnetism. We can spend a lot of time on the internet looking here, there, and wherever, magnetized from one story to another, one image to another. And when we're done, we may well feel depleted of some energy. Yet, in the news that we hear, for example, and see on our computer or our TV, it is all human creation. It is all human vibration. And as we said before, often infused with some quality of fear. This very often is the fear of the fallen ones themselves, because they have no connection, they have no contact with God or eternity. They live in various states of fear, and their human solutions to that fear. Their lusts and greed are human solutions to their fears. What they fear is their aloneness and their separation from eternity. And so their desires for power and control are actually their fears of God in the people, in you and in me, and all the people on this earth. For if God and all the people were to rise up and were people to find that God within themselves, these fallen ones would not have long to last on this planet. Now, what do? They present their fears as real, and that we should also fear these things too. And we are vulnerable to these things to the extent that we have a human consciousness, a dweller on the threshold. For our human consciousness and our dweller on the threshold are not eternal. And so they have the same fears as the fallen ones. They know they are temporary. They know they exist only as long as they can steal the energy of our I am presence from us. So the human consciousness and the dweller on the threshold resonate with the consciousness of the fallen ones. And so we feel their fears as our own. We feel the feelings, we hear the thoughts in our mind of our dweller on the threshold and human consciousness. And because we hear these thoughts in our mind, we think that they are our thoughts. And again, they are, as long as we accept them. They are our thoughts until we transmute them and displace them with the thoughts and the feelings of our Christ self. Now, there's another law that we're dealing with. And this law says you cannot heal what you cannot access. And because of this, we have to have our errors exposed to us. Now, this is almost a contradiction to what we already said, because we have to be able to see our darkness and the darkness on the earth to a certain level. When these things are exposed, they are often painful, especially to the human consciousness. They can produce guilt, shame, sense of failure, criticism, condemnation, or judgment, and everything that death and hell can throw at us that we might be vulnerable to. The human consciousness has no solutions to this exposure that are helpful. This is what we deal with the most especially and most intensely when we are in the dark night of the soul. We might say that the planet itself is going through the dark night of the soul. For surely a lot of death and hell on this planet is being exposed. And so our job is to check the news, to watch the news, sufficient so that we know what it is to make calls on and what to decree on and what to send the light into without being drawn into it and down into that downward spiral, that disintegration spiral. If you find yourself dealing with a lot of negative energy, you may want to ask God if you're going through the dark night of the soul. How he will let you know one way or the other is a mystery. But this darkness can be very confusing and very confounding. And if we try to just figure it out with our human consciousness, we will not get very far. Now, the solutions are through the light, or through the Christ light. The human consciousness cannot heal itself, no matter what it says to the contrary. The only thing that can heal the human consciousness is the light of God that never fails. This is what God's Sharia has called the etherealization of consciousness. And he says this is not an automatic process. It takes place through the threefold flame. Now, one of the handouts that you have access to is a compilation of teachings on the threefold flame that Craig Nicholson assembled some time ago. And you, Craig, do not have to download it because you already know what's on it. This requires the use of and the balancing of the threefold flame. The threefold flame works best when it is balanced, because then it can expand, and that expands our Christ consciousness. The balancing of the threefold flame is incremental. If it were to happen all at once, we would not be able to bear the cataclysm that would take place in our consciousness and in our being. And so on a daily basis, our goal is to exchange the human consciousness for the Christ consciousness. God will not leave a vacuum in our being. We can't just get rid of our dweller on the threshold, or aspects of our human consciousness, or our fears, or our desires or addictions. They have to be replaced with something. Otherwise, it would leave a vacuum. So all of the agitation is in that human consciousness. All of our fears are in that human consciousness. And they are in parts of our soul that are attached to that human consciousness. If you have a fear that seems to be that you're stuck in, one that you cannot simply dismiss, you might want to consider the possibility that you have a soul part that is attached to that fear or that desire or that addiction or that part of the psychic dominion, the psychic consciousness. That part of your soul is stuck in that vibration all the time. Our attention, the lever of our attention, can move to all the different places within our consciousness, including different parts of our soul that can be stuck here, there, or wherever, or parts of our soul that are already one with our Christ self, or percentages of ourself that are even already ascended. So if you have such a part of consciousness that you feel you get stuck in, That would be something to make calls on, especially when you're in the process of doing the soul retrieval ritual that we do at all of our conferences. That is an intensely valuable ritual for this kind of work. So we take that human consciousness and we surrender it into the fire. And as we do that, we become more and more of that fire. That fire is God. The dweller on the threshold fears that fire. The soul does not fear the fire, except to the extent that it believes the dweller on the threshold is telling something that's true. But as we exchange our darkness for the light, the soul becomes more and more one with that light, and we enter more and more into the love and the peace of that light. Now, this picture that's on your screen is a picture of Jesus standing in the threefold flame. The Christ is the Christ is the Christ. At the level of the Christ, we are one. At the level of the I am presence, we are one. If you choose to, you can look upon this picture and you can think of this figure of the Christ as your Christ self, as your reality. Your Christ self is your reality. The threefold flame, the Christ self, is the lowest level of reality that we have access to. Everything below that level is illusion. So most of this world down here lives in the vibrations of illusion. So you can think about yourself as being one with that Christ, and that threefold flame is then bigger than you are physically, as you let in your mind yourself become one with that Christ. We do that through the use of our imagination. Imagination and fantasy are not the same thing. Imagination is a form, a part of invocation. And so as you imagine yourself one with that Christ, you can assume the consciousness of that Christ upon yourself. So if you choose to meditate upon yourself standing in that threefold flame, as you see in the picture on your computer, you will gradually become one with that flame. Just as watching the news and the fearsome stuff on the internet, we become one with those fears and the imposters of the Christ, as these people on the internet speak with their supposing authority about their supposed reality. As we focus our attention on that kind of stuff, that's what we resonate with, that's what we become, that's where our vibration goes. If you meditate on a picture such as this, you will begin to become with it. You will begin to become one with this flame and with this Christ. Now, even as you try to do this, you may notice that your attention may be kind of scattered. It may be many places at the same time. Many of us have very distractible minds. And so we observe, what's easier, walking uphill or walking downhill? Yes, it's easy to let our vibration drop down into the human consciousness. it's more challenging to raise it up to this Christ consciousness. And so, as we march up the hill into the Christ consciousness in vibration, as it is written, we must diligently seek our Christ self and our I am presence. For as it is written, he, meaning God, is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So as we consider meditating, what does it mean to meditate upon your threefold flame? Meditation is a mystery to many of us in Western civilization. Just thinking about your threefold flame is a form of meditation. Looking at a picture of your threefold flame is meditation. And meditation can expand from there. If you want to expand this effort and this pursuit, one of the other handouts is a handout from chapter 5 of Djwal Kul's book on the human aura. And it is entitled The Hidden Chamber of the Heart, which is where this threefold flame is located. He guides us in a meditation that is much more elaborate and much more complex. What we're doing here, but it's a wonderful meditation and a wonderful practice. Likewise, God gives us decrees, because here in the West we don't meditate very easily. Now we're going to try a little experiment. And this experiment will be a meditation on this image and also a meditation upon a few decrees. And so, as I mentioned earlier, one of your handouts is a copy of the decree 2003, the balance of threefold flame in me. Now I ask you to notice a few things about this decree. It says, I call to beloved Helios and Vesta and the threefold flame of love, wisdom, and power in the heart of the great central sun. There is a threefold flame in the heart of the great central sun. And part of what we are doing with this decree is we are invoking that threefold flame in the great central sun to be superimposed over our threefold flame. That will help us balance it, blaze it, expand it, and intensify it. Secondly, it says in the preamble, to balance, blaze, expand, and intensify the threefold flame within my heart until I am manifesting all of thee and naught of the human remains. This is the purpose of this decree. We are trading in, as we mentioned before, the human consciousness for the threefold flame, which is the Christ consciousness. It's a good deal. We're trading in all of our fears and our human effluvia for the reality of our Christ consciousness, which, by the way, is where happiness is. If you want to be happy, expand your threefold flame and become one with it. And the third thing I want you to notice in this preamble is there is a command. Take complete dominion and control over my four lower bodies and raise me in all light by the power of the 3 times 3 into the glorious resurrection and ascension in the light. This is the goal of life for those who want it and are willing to work for it. Now, I want to add one more thing that we're going to be making use of here. The goddess of beauty, the Ascended Lady Master Ruth Hawkins, dictated once, and she said, I would suggest then that on a daily basis, you call to God for the great central sun magnet to be superimposed upon your heart chakra. And thereby, even though your heart chakra is not developed, nor is the great central sun magnet developed where you are, that magnet will be placed over your heart and will hold intact the fragments of the soul that you have called back through many prayers and mantras and decrees in these rituals of soul retrieval. So you see, beloved, this is in itself a great dispensation to know that you may have that central sun magnet over the heart flame, over the threefold flame, protecting the fragments of the soul. Now that's the end of that quote. Now our experiment is going to be to integrate all these things that we're talking about here in a meditation. So again, I ask you, if you choose to enter into this experiment, to let your attention come to the picture on your computer screen of the Christ standing within the threefold flame. As you are able, without stress or strain of any kind, let yourself, as you're able, to identify with that Christ self standing in that flame. You can think about it, you can visualize it, and you can feel it as you are able. And so, in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of each one's Christ self, and in accordance with their own free will, I call to beloved Cusco. I call to you in your name for the angels who are the reapers. I call for these angels now to come into the force field of each one of these individuals, again, according to their free will. And to go to each point of their attention, each one of their inner children that are available at this time, all the points of their attention, and pick them up, guide them, direct them. If you need to, you can carry them. Carry them now up to their own heart chakra, up to the secret chamber of their hearts, to where this threefold flame is located. In the name of Sanat Kamara, I call for them now to be carried to the secret chamber of the heart, where they can knock upon the door. Now, as you're doing this, you may have parts of yourself identified with this, with these parts. And so as you knock upon the door, you can now let your attention go to the other side of the door, one with your Christ self. And you can open that door, and you can say unto these inner children of yours, friends, thou art welcome here. Enter, and I will give thee sup. The sup that you have to give them is light. It is the light of your threefold flame, and it is the light of your I Am Presence. And so they can be brought into the secret chamber of your heart. And in the name of the goddess of beauty, we call for the great central sun magnet to be placed over these hearts for the sealing of these inner children, ourselves, these flames, all of the points of our identity within this heart and within this great central sun magnet. We ask this all to be done in full power, according to God's will. These things, O Lord, are better, not our human wills, but thine be done. Amen. Now, with the focus of your attention inside of your Christ self, you can walk now to the altar of your heart where your threefold flame burns. And again, as you are able, think of yourself as being in that threefold flame, being one with that threefold flame. Now, I will give the preamble to this decree for the balancing of the threefold flame. And then we will give the decree together very slowly, paying attention to the words and entering into those words as you are able, again, without stress or strain. If you want to give the preamble with me, you're certainly welcome to. In the name of the beloved, mighty, victorious presence of God, I am in me, and my very own beloved holy Christ self. I call to beloved Helios and Vesta and the threefold flame of love, wisdom, and power in the heart of the great central sun. To beloved Moriel, beloved Lord Lanto, beloved Paul the Venetian, beloved mighty victory, beloved goddess of liberty and the seven mighty Elohim, beloved Anello, the entire spirit of the great white brotherhood and the world mother, elemental life, fire, air, water, and earth, to balance, blaze, expand, and intensify the threefold flame within my heart, until I am manifesting all of thee and naught of the human remains. Take complete dominion and control over my four lower bodies, and raise me in all life by the power of the 3 times 3 into the glorious resurrection and ascension in the light. In the name of the Father, the Mother, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I decree. Now, as you stand here in your heart, even in this threefold flame, you can look up. You can look up to your I Am Presence. You can look up to the great central sun magnet. As we give this decree, you are talking to a being. You are talking to a consciousness. You are talking to the great central sun magnet. You are talking to ascended masters. And they are listening. And they will do what we are calling for. And so what we call for, again, you can think about and you can feel without stress, without strain. And so we say together, balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Now again, as you stand here within this threefold flame, you can look up. Look up to your I am presence. Imagine it. Or see it as you're able. Your I am presence is one with every other I am presence. Your I am presence is one with the great central sun magnet. Again, you are talking to a consciousness when we talk to our I am presence. And if you know this one, you can say this with me. I am presence, thou art master. I am presence, clear the way. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charge with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. And now you can imagine yourself, see and feel, not only yourself in your threefold flame in your heart, but everything around you and in you is now light. We imagine it, we affirm it, and we invoke it. And so we can say again, this is Kathumi's decree. You're saying what you are, and you're asking for this, we say. I am light, glowing light, radiating light, intensified light. God consumes my darkness, transmuting it into light. This day, I am a focus of the central sun. Flowing through me is a crystal river, a living fountain of light that can never be qualified by human thought and feeling. I am an outpost of the divine. Such darkness as has used me is swallowed up by the mighty river of light which I am. I am light. I live in light. I am light's fullest dimension. I am light's purest intention. I am light, flooding the world everywhere I move, blessing, strengthening, and conveying the purpose of the kingdom of heaven. Now, if you want to, you can put this light to other purposes. You can project it wherever you want it to go. You can project it down into your own electronic belt if you want, or you can project it to other people. And again, we can say together, as you are this light, I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being, and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. And now we say together, and in full faith, I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith, I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith, I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. Right here and now, with full power, eternally sustained, all powerfully active, ever expanding and world enfolding, until all are wholly ascended in the light and free. Beloved I am, beloved I am, beloved I am. Now, as we started this presentation, we spoke of the world consciousness as a disintegration spiral, as beloved Nada has referred to it. What we have just experimented with is an integration spiral. You can think about this, for we know this. This is all about the science of energy. If you check your thoughts and your feelings, you may find that your thoughts and your feelings are different than they were after you were exploring the internet or doing something else of that nature. Because you have invoked an energy field that is of a higher vibration than the one that exists in the world. The more we do these kinds of exercises, the more we become, the more our identity moves into this vibration. We become more and more of it. As I said before, it is incremental because all of our bodies have to adjust. So we diligently seek this light. And if we do so, and as we do so, our vibration changes. We become more and more light until that glorious day that we become all light. Now, you may have noticed that the human consciousness resists this process. We have a choice about what to do with this human consciousness. That resistance we hear as our thoughts, we feel it in our feelings. It tries to pull our mind and our attention here, there, and wherever. Even as we strive to stay in the light, as we do these mantras, our negative thoughts and our feelings are our diagnostic tools. Negative thoughts and feelings are not a good representative of reality, but they are a diagnostic tool that God uses to communicate with us as to what it is that he wants us to transmute and what he wants us to work on, what he wants us to make our calls on that needs to go into this light and be dissolved. So, with that, are there any questions?
Anyone has any questions, please unmute yourself and ask them.
Yeah, I know that I sometimes feel so discouraged. And then I wonder, is there a time when we no longer have these fragments and we can become whole? Can that really, really happen? Because it's really hard to really believe in ourselves that we can do that.
Yes. As long as we are in embodiment, we will have challenges. We will deal with the energies of this planet. Mother has told us that she balanced 100% of her karma. She was about as whole as you can get. And she probably felt more negative energies than the rest of us do, because the light of her being was so disturbing to death and hell that death and hell would attack her. So there are two answers to your question. We will deal with energy as long as we're here. But at the same time, the fragments can become healed in this light of our heart. And as we do that, what we think of as reality changes. As we do that, our heart becomes more of the reality. Light, our I am presence, becomes more of that reality. Saint Germain in his and Godfrey's books says over and over and over again, keep your eye on your presence, keep your eye on the presence, keep your eye on the presence. That means your inner eye, that means your attention. Again, we go back to the first law, because you become what you put your attention upon. Now, we have things to do in this physical plane, so we have to move our attention around. But you can go there as often as you can. People who are going through really intense aspects of the dark night of the soul tell me, I don't know what's real anymore. I went out and shoveled the snow, but I wasn't quite sure that that was me or that snow was even real. And this is because of this shift in our identity that takes place as we do these things. Things that used to be real, we used to think are real, we now recognize as illusion. They're just something we're walking through down here in this earth. And the inner world, the light of the Christ, is becoming more and more of a reality. Thank you for that question, Jennifer.
Thank you for your answer, Stewart.
You're welcome.
Stuart, there was another question in the chat about, do you do counseling? And if so, how can people contact you?
Well, my name is Stewart C. Anderson, and that's my email address. It's Stewart C. Anderson 99 at gmail.com.
I'll type that in the chat.
Pardon
What about Patricia's book on energy?
I'm sorry?
The Green Book of Energy, everything, God is energy, or I can't remember the title of the book.
Was that a question?
I was trying to make it one. Are you referring to any of the parts of that book?
I'm not understanding the question.
He's asking you to, William, he's asking you to clarify the question.
Is it Stewart C? Is it Stewart.C.Anderson99@gmail.com?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. It's in the chat for anyone who wants it.
So Stuart, I was trying to take copious notes here of everything, but maybe I missed something. Is this, I'll call it, event being recorded? Can it be played back?
Yes, it is. That's a Patricia question. It is being recorded. It can be played back.
And Patricia, will you or someone provide a link to that playback?
Yes, and the link you use to get to this recording today, at the bottom of the announcement, there was a recording link on there.
Oh, okay.
At the bottom of the announcement, there was a recording link, and it should be up by tomorrow.
Okay.
Great.
What, there was a lot packed in here today, tonight.
Yes, there is.
Do you have any further comments about this COVID chaos?
Well, I have my opinion.
We all do.
And to whatever extent COVID is real is debatable already. But what we have seen over and over and over again is how it has been used.
Yeah.
The fallen ones have a motto, a saying: "No good crisis should ever be wasted."
Yeah.
And so they use these kinds of things to incite fear, very intense fear. Everything about COVID is fear, 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 fear.
Yeah.
There was a headline here in Montana that said, throughout this entire winter, there was not one case of the flu. And they say, isn't it wonderful how great these masks work? Yeah. So we all laugh.
Oh my goodness.
There was no flu because everything was called COVID.
Yeah.
And if somebody happened to have a cold when they died of a heart attack, it was called COVID related. So it's the same process we're talking about. Whether, to whatever extent the event is real, it has been used by death and hell to lower the vibration of all of us, of our country, our planet, as the anxiety level about it has been so extreme. People have entered into fear. I heard one commentator say, he was talking about church services. And he said, when you go to a church service, whatever you do, do not sing. You'll spread the virus too fast if you sing. Well, what that tells me anyway is we invoke more light by singing than by just speaking. And so they don't want us to sing because the light, they don't like the light. They don't like the light.
Interesting.
So in that
So any final, I'm sorry.
that's okay. In the context of what we're talking about today, those are my comments. Yeah. It's a consciousness lowerer,
Yeah. So I want to thank you, Stuart. I thought it was very great. I love the meditation and of the reminders of all the things that we are to put our energy on in order to keep coming up higher, and to not put our energy on and to limit how much energy we give to the things on which we have to make calls, so that it doesn't weigh us down, that we continue to be able to invoke the light that will raise it up and transmute and transcend the darkness that we're seeing around us. So I am grateful. If there's one last quick question, we need to sign off this evening. Yes?
Well,
Henry?
I remember from decades ago that the Djwal Kul meditation and the music that accompanied that when we did it in, call it conferences or events, was amazing. I don't know how to get that, but that was like, wow. The Djwal Kul meditation was really neat.
Yes, it was. I would suspect that it is downloadable from the Ascended Master Library, but I can't tell you exactly where it is.
Mhm.
But I'm sure somebody at the ranch could.
Yeah.
And Larry said that the book that he was talking about is called Everything is Energy. So thank you very much. We're going to stop our recording this night and say thank you to Stewart. We are truly grateful to you once again. And we will see you on the 21st of March right here with another great inspirational strategy for victory. God bless and God victory.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Jen.
much.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
It was.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
You're all